So that first one sounded really interesting. Let's talk about context. What did you find?
It's interesting that if you look at, for example, the amount of data organizations are collecting and performance improvements, there's zero correlation in research data between those two. That's not to say that monitoring IT performance is not important, but what's even more important is actually putting this data in the right context. That more than 70% of organizations that participate in research are reporting their IT performance data is not actionable. And that's the reason for that is the context in that data is being presented, that organizations are trying to pull this data from a lot of different sources and try to put it in, present in a way that you can do something actionable with it.
It's really interesting. We run into the same thing. If you look at the history of IT, the sort of first phase was data silos. Lots of different data, lots of different silos, didn't really touch. Then there was a big push toward, and that didn't work clearly. Then there was a big push to big data. If we could just get all of this data in one place, big data will solve this, and that hasn't worked. And then what I see is that there's a new trend where we say, okay, if we apply big data and machine learning, then that'll all be peace. But I think that your key finding aligns with what we see, is I think even that's missing something, and it's the context. Is unless the data has context, it's hard to make any sense of it, whether you're using machine learning or other analytics. Without context, the data's, I think to your point, unactionable. So very, very interesting. We see very similar things from our perspective.
And I think, as I mentioned, there are a lot of interesting stories in the study, and there's a lot of stuff that we cover. But I think, one thing that people should keep in mind after reading the study is this market that used to be around collecting more data, as you mentioned, monitoring in general, is really becoming analytics, automation, and data management game.
Right. Yeah, automation. Well, I know we'll probably talk about this a little later on, because I saw this in your study, but in the end, I think the end goal is automation. That's what everybody wants to achieve, and so part of this is how do you get towards automation. I suspect we'll go deeper into that as a little bit later in the talk.
Right.